Mickey Williams was destined for greatness. His high school dominance, electrifying dunks, and massive hype made him a can't-miss prospect. But somewhere along the way, the spotlight became a burden, and the cracks started to show. His game stagnated, the pressure mounted, and off-court distractions took center stage. But just how did a promised superstar lose all momentum so quickly? In his early days, Mickey Williams was the kind of player who made headlines before he even stepped on the court. His high school career was a highlight reel of poster dunks, explosive drives, and highlight reel finishes that left audiences in awe. At a time when every game was an opportunity to shatter records, Mickey emerged as one of the most talked about recruits in the country. Coaches praised his natural athleticism and killer instinct, while fans marveled at his ability to seemingly defy gravity with every leap. Mickey's performances weren't just spectacular, they were historic, scoring feats that lit up local news and social media. He built a reputation as a once-in-a-generation talent, with a signature shoe deal already on the horizon and endorsements beginning to trickle in. It seemed as though nothing could stop him. His early highlight reels showed a player who was not only gifted physically, but also possessed a flair for the dramatic, a quality that set him apart from his peers. But as the excitement grew, so did the pressure. Every dunk and every highlight was scrutinized by an audience that expected nothing short of perfection. The adulation was intoxicating. For a brief period, Mickey was living out a dream many could only imagine. The media quickly crowned him a superstar in the making, and his social media following exploded as fans around the country watched him rise. The promise of a bright future in the NBA was everywhere, and his early success created sky-high expectations. For a period, Mickey Williams was riding a meteoric rise. In high school, he wasn't just a participant, he was the main event. Every game, he delivered performances that left fans and critics alike speechless. He was celebrated for his smooth handles, his ability to finish above the rim, and his fearless attitude on the court. His team, often built around his dynamic play, saw him shatter scoring records and earn accolades that positioned him as a future franchise cornerstone. The media spotlight amplified every aspect of his game. Interviews, highlight packages, and even commercials began to feature the young phenom. It wasn't uncommon to see headlines praising his once-in-a-lifetime talent and speculating about an imminent NBA career. Endorsements poured in, including a lucrative signature shoe deal that seemed to validate every projection made about his potential. For a time, Mickey was the embodiment of high school basketball success, a beacon of promise that would one day revolutionize the sport. His on-court brilliance was complemented by his off-court image, carefully curated through social media. Fans connected with his personality, his swagger, and his seemingly natural progression from a talented kid to a professional athlete. In every arena he played, he drew crowds that were eager to witness greatness. Coaches used his performances as a benchmark for what elite talent should look like, and recruiters couldn't wait to secure his services. However, peak performance is a double-edged sword. The very accolades that brought him fame also planted the seeds of immense pressure. The expectation to maintain that level of excellence became a burden. Every game was measured against his early jaw-dropping feats, and any slight dip in performance was met with harsh criticism. Yet, during his peak, Mickey appeared to thrive on the pressure, using it to fuel even more explosive plays. That period was a high-water mark, a time when everything aligned perfectly. But as with every great story, the zenith was soon to give way to unforeseen challenges. As the seasons passed, the first signs of trouble began to emerge. The once reliable highlight reels became sporadic, and the explosive drives that defined Mickey's early days started to lose their luster. Critics began to notice that his numbers were dropping, and his once consistent performances were now punctuated by periods of inconsistency. It was as if the spark that once ignited his play was slowly fading, replaced by moments of uncertainty and erratic decision-making. Observers noted that while his athleticism remained, the precision and finesse that had set him apart were beginning to falter. Turnovers increased, and his shooting efficiency took a hit. What had once been a dominant scoring ability now seemed like a relic of the past. In games where he should have been lighting up the scoreboard, Mickey was now struggling to find his rhythm, missing open looks, and even committing uncharacteristic errors on defense. These early warning signs sparked a flurry of debates among fans and analysts. Some argued that the intense pressure and relentless media attention had taken their toll on his mental fundamental game. Others suggested that perhaps the competition was simply catching up to him, exposing the gaps in his skill set that had been masked by raw athleticism in his younger years. There were whispers that Mickey's approach to training might have shifted, that the work ethic that once fueled his rise was no longer as rigorous. Behind the scenes, rumors began to circulate about internal issues within his team and even disagreements with coaches over playing style and practice habits. It became increasingly clear that the transition from being a high school sensation to facing the challenges of more competitive play was proving difficult. While Mickey still had the physical tools to excel, his game was no longer evolving at the pace that many had expected. The early promise that had so captivated the nation was now spoiled by growing inconsistencies, and the gap between potential and performance was widening.
A former San Ysidro basketball star sentenced in court today, talking about Mikey Williams, who pleaded guilty last November as part of a plea deal.
Our Delaney White joins us live from downtown with the details. Delaney.
No career is immune to off-court distractions, and for Mickey Williams, these issues began to compound as quickly as his on-court struggles. While fans once celebrated his dazzling performances, a series of personal and legal controversies started to cast a long shadow over his promising future. Reports of heated arguments, questionable decisions, and even run-ins with the law began to surface, each incident feeding into the narrative of a talent spiraling out of control. The most significant blow came when Mickey found himself entangled in legal troubles that made headlines. Allegations involving reckless behavior and confrontations with law enforcement quickly dominated local news, shifting the public focus from his athletic prowess to his conduct. What had once been a story about a rising basketball star was now marred by tales of off-court recklessness, casting doubt on his judgment and maturity. These controversies didn't just affect his public image, they seeped into his daily routines and training habits. The once dedicated work ethic that had powered his early success began to falter as distractions mounted. Relationships with coaches and teammates suffered. Whispers of discord in the locker room became more frequent. The media, always hungry for a dramatic angle, painted Mickey as a troubled youth who couldn't handle the pressures of fame and success. Furthermore, the legal challenges created tangible setbacks. Court dates, media interviews, and the stress of defending himself off the court took time and focus away from improving his game. Instead of channeling energy into training and refining his skills, Mickey was forced to navigate a maze of legal and personal issues that continually disrupted his routine. The mounting controversies not only dented his reputation, but also became a major distraction from the discipline required to succeed at higher levels of competition. For many fans, the fall from grace was hard to watch. They remembered the promising young athlete who once embodied determination and drive, now overshadowed by scandals that raised more questions than answers. It wasn't just a series of missteps, it was a stark indicator that the combination of early fame and unchecked off-court behavior could derail even the brightest of careers. In a world where every mistake is magnified, Mickey's off-court troubles began to define him as much as his dwindling stats did on the court. When Mickey Williams leaped in college basketball, expectations were sky high. Analysts predicted that his natural gifts would seamlessly translate to the next level, where tougher competition would only serve to further polish his game. However, the transition proved to be anything but smooth. The college arena, with its higher stakes and more disciplined play, quickly exposed the vulnerabilities that had been hidden during his high school dominance. In college, Mickey was confronted with opponents who were not only faster and stronger, but also far more tactically prepared. His once revered ability to overpower defenders now results in turnovers and missed opportunities. Coaches struggled to integrate him into a system that required not just raw athleticism, but also sound decision-making and a willingness to play team basketball. His scoring numbers began to dip significantly, and the flashy plays that once defined his game gave way to erratic performances. Furthermore, Mickey's role on the college team shifted drastically. No longer the undisputed star, he found himself forced to adapt to a more limited role, one that required more discipline, consistent effort, and a willingness to sacrifice personal glory for the sake of team success. The pressure to perform in a more structured environment amplified every misstep, and the early promise of explosive play seemed to fade with every game. Critics and scouts alike began to question whether Mickey could reinvent himself at this higher level. The very attributes that had once set him apart were now being scrutinized, and any shortcomings were magnified. His shooting efficiency, for example, dropped noticeably, and his defensive effort, once an afterthought in the face of offensive fireworks, became a glaring weakness. It was clear that the game had evolved, and Mickey's skill set was not keeping pace. The transition to college also came with its own set of challenges off the court. Adjusting to a more rigorous academic and training schedule left little room for the distractions that had plagued him before, yet the pressure of living up to his hype only added to the stress. It wasn't long before doubts emerged about whether the early promise was sustainable in an environment that demanded continuous growth and adaptation. The gap between the superstar potential of his high school days and the harsh reality of college basketball became increasingly apparent. Frustrating aspects of Mickey Williams' decline is the apparent plateau in his skill development. In a sport where continuous improvement is key, Mickey's inability to evolve has become a glaring issue. Early on, his athletic gifts and natural flair allowed him to dominate, but as competition intensified, those raw talents alone could no longer carry him. Coaches and analysts started to notice that while his physical abilities remained impressive, the fundamental aspects of his game were stagnating. For a young player with such immense potential, the lack of progress was perplexing. His jump shot, once considered serviceable, had become increasingly unreliable. Similarly, his ball handling skills, though flashy in his early days, now often led to turnovers and ill-advised decisions under pressure. Defensive effort, a trait that should have naturally developed alongside his offensive exploits, was notably absent. Opponents began to exploit these weaknesses, and it was clear that Mickey wasn't adapting his game to counter more sophisticated strategies. In today's competitive basketball landscape, the difference between a great player and a good one often lies in the constant refinement of skills. While some stars continue to evolve, adding new moves, refining their shooting form, and developing a more complete understanding of team defense, Mickey's game seems stuck in a time warp. Instead of building on his natural abilities, he appeared content to rely on the same old tricks that once set him apart, even as the game around him advanced. This lack of growth isn't merely a technical shortcoming, it's a reflection of attitude. In a system that rewards hard work and relentless dedication, the failure to push beyond one's comfort zone can be devastating. The early promise that dazzled scouts and fans alike was now undercut by the reality of an athlete who refused or perhaps couldn't evolve. And as the competition grew tougher, every missed opportunity to improve was a setback that further widened the gap between him and his peers. Fame can be a double-edged sword, and for Mickey Williams, it seems that the allure of celebrity status has taken a toll on his development. Early success brought not only adoration, but also a lifestyle that few of his peers could imagine. Endorsements, social media followings, and even appearances with celebrities rapidly elevated him to a level of stardom that, while glamorous, came with its own set of distractions. As Mickey's name became synonymous with high-flying talent, his off-court life grew increasingly complicated. The pressures of living up to a larger-than-life image meant that he often found himself caught between the expectations of fans and the realities of a typical athlete's life. Lavish parties, endorsements, and constant media attention began to interfere with the disciplined routine required to hone his craft. While his natural abilities remained intact, the drive to continuously improve seemed to wane as the trappings of fame took center stage. The impact on his training regimen was noticeable. Reports emerged of long periods away from the gym, a relaxed approach to practice, and even missed sessions that were once sacrosanct. His once dedicated work ethic gave way to a lifestyle where social media appearances and celebrity interactions occasionally took priority over rigorous drills and focused workouts. This shift affected not only his physical preparedness, but also his mental sharpness on the court. Moreover, the pressure to maintain a flawless image off the court added an additional layer of stress. Every misstep, both in public and during practice, was amplified by a media environment eager to capture any sign of decline. The transition from a promising young athlete to a full-blown celebrity had its costs, and Mickey's inability to balance these demands ultimately showed in his game. As we assess Mickey Williams' trajectory, the looming question is whether there's any hope for a comeback or if his decline is irreversible. At this stage, the challenges are formidable. The physical gifts that once once made him a standout are still there, but they're increasingly overshadowed by a lack of skill development, a dwindling work ethic, and a lifestyle that distracts more than it inspires. Looking ahead, several scenarios could unfold. One possibility is that Mickey recognizes the need for change, a hard reset where he refocuses on training, rediscovers his passion for the game, and reestablishes discipline both on and off the court. For many athletes, a turning point comes when they confront their shortcomings head on, often spurred by the realization that early fame can only take you so far. With the right support system, a renewed commitment, and a willingness to adapt, it might still be possible for him to reclaim some of that lost promise. Alternatively, if the current trajectory continues, Mickey may join a long list of what-ifs, a talented prospect who never reached his full potential. The college game is unforgiving, and as more players adapt and improve, there will be little room for those who fail to evolve. For scouts and coaches, the risk of investing in a talent that appears to have plateaued is enormous. The reputation of falling short can stick, limiting future opportunities at higher levels. Mickey Williams' journey from a dazzling high school phenom to a clear example is a real reminder that raw talent alone isn't enough. Without continuous growth and unwavering discipline, even the brightest stars can fade away. What do you think his future holds? Redemption or permanent decline? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't miss out on our next video shown on screen.